Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you do not need to change your entire life today? What if you do not need to become a completely different person overnight? What if the life you want is not created by one giant decision, one lucky opportunity, or one massive burst of motivation, but by what you do consistently, especially when nobody's watching? Because the truth is simple. Your future is being created by the small things you repeat every single day. 1% better today, 1% stronger tomorrow, 1% more disciplined, more focused, more courageous, and more committed. It may not look like much in one day, but give that small improvement enough time, and it can completely transform your life. What if the life you want is not as far away as you think? What if you're only one small decision, one small action, one small improvement away from beginning a completely different journey? Most people look at successful people and see the final result. They see the wealth, the competence, the strength, the achievement, and the recognition. But they rarely see the tiny actions that created those results. They want the mountain, but they ignore the first step. They want the transformation, but they underestimate the power of repetition. The truth is that massive success is rarely created by one massive action. It is built through small improvements repeated consistently over time. 1% may not sound impressive. 1% more focus, 1% more discipline, 1% more effort, 1% more knowledge, 1% better decisions. But here's the hook. The power of 1% is not found in what it does in a single day. The power is found in what happens when you repeat it for months and years. Imagine improving just a little every day. You wake up and spend a few minutes learning instead of scrolling. You make one healthier choice instead of getting into an old habit. You save a small amount instead of spending everything impulsively. You complete one important task instead of allowing the entire day to disappear. You read a few pages. You exercise for a short time. You practice a skill. You have one more difficult conversation. None of these actions may instantly transform your life, but they are moving you, and movement repeated consistently creates momentum. Most people quit because they are looking for immediate evidence that their effort is working. They take action for a few days and expect dramatic results. When they do not see them, they assume nothing is happening. But growth is often invisible before it becomes obvious. A seed spends time developing beneath the soil before anyone sees a tree. Your discipline, knowledge, confidence, and strength are developing in the same way. You may not see the results yet, but every small action is building something beneath the surface. Think about the person you will become 1 year from now if you improve your habits by just a little every day. You will think differently because you have learned more. You will feel stronger because you have trained consistently. You will have greater confidence because you have kept more promises to yourself. You will make better decisions because you have practiced discipline. The transformation may appear sudden to other people, but you will know the truth. It was created by hundreds of small choices that nobody noticed. The danger is that small negative habits work the same way. 1 hour wasted may not seem important. One unhealthy decision may not seem serious. One excuse may appear harmless. But repeated over time, these small choices can create a life you never intended to live. That is why every day matters. You are always moving in a direction. The question is whether your daily actions are taking you closer to your goals or further away from them. You do not need to become perfect. You need to become consistent. Do not ask yourself, how can I completely change my life today? Ask, what is one thing I can improve today? That question creates action. It removes pressure. It gives you control. You may not be able to change everything at once, but you can change one decision. You can choose one better thought. You can take one more step. And sometimes one small step is all it takes to break the pattern that has been holding you back. Never underestimate the person who improves quietly. While others are waiting for motivation, that person is building discipline. While others are making excuses, that person is taking small steps. While others are looking for shortcuts, that person is creating a foundation. And foundations are built one brick at a time. No single brick creates a building, but without the bricks, the building cannot exist. Your life is being built in exactly the same way. Every book you read, every workout you complete, every skill you practice, every dollar you save, every distraction you resist, and every promise you keep adds another brick to your future. You may not notice the difference today, but keep building. Keep improving, keep showing up, because one day the results will become impossible to ignore. The person you want to become is not created in one dramatic moment. That person is created through the small decisions you make when nobody is watching. 1% better today than 1% better tomorrow. Keep going long enough and you will discover something powerful. Small changes do not remain small when they are repeated with consistency. They become momentum. Momentum becomes confidence. Confidence becomes action. And action, repeated over time, can change the entire direction of your life. What happens when motivation disappears? What happens on the morning when you wake up tired, discouraged, distracted, or uncertain? What happens when the excitement you felt at the beginning is gone and the goal suddenly feels much harder than you imagined? This is the moment that separates people who only dream about success from people who actually create it. Because motivation can help you start, but consistency is what keeps you moving when motivation is no longer there. Most people wait to feel motivated before they take action. They say, when I feel inspired, I will exercise. When I feel ready, I will study. When I feel confident, I will start the business. When I feel energetic, I will work on my goals. But if you make your progress dependent on your emotions, your progress will always be unpredictable. Your feelings change, your energy changes, your circumstances change, but your commitment must become stronger than your mood. The truth is, you will not always feel like doing what needs to be done. There will be days when you would rather stay comfortable. There will be days when distractions seem more attractive than discipline. There will be moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. And this is exactly why habits are so powerful. A habit allows you to act without waiting for the perfect emotional state. You do not need to debate with yourself every morning. You simply follow the standard you have created. Think about the difference between someone who exercises only when motivated and someone who has made exercise part of their identity. And the first person constantly asks, do I feel like working out today? The second person asks, what is my routine today? That is a completely different mindset. One depends on emotion, the other depends on commitment. One waits for the right feeling. The other creates the right result through action. Here is the powerful question. What if you stopped asking yourself whether you feel like doing the work and started asking yourself who you want to become? The person you want to become does not always feel motivated. The successful person gets tired. The disciplined person gets discouraged. The confident person experiences fear. The difference is not that these people never struggle. The difference is that they refuse to let temporary feelings control permanent decisions. Motivation is like a spark. It can start a fire, but it cannot keep the fire burning forever without fuel. Consistency is the fuel. Every time you repeat a positive action, you strengthen the habit. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-respect. Every time you do the work, when you do not feel like doing it, you prove that your goals are more powerful than your excuses. This does not mean you must be intense every single day. Consistency does not mean giving 100% all the time. Some days, your best may be a powerful workout. Other days, your best may be simply taking a short walk. Some days, you may study for 3 hours. Other days, you may only have the energy to read a few pages. The key is to keep the connection alive. Do something, keep moving. Do not allow one difficult day to become a permanent pattern. Many people destroy their progress because they believe that missing one day means they have failed. They miss one workout and quit for a month. They break their diet once and abandon their entire plan. They have one unproductive day and decide they are lazy. But one mistake is not the problem. The real problem is the story you tell yourself after the mistake. And you can say, I failed, so I should quit. Or you can say, I slipped, but I am returning immediately. The second mindset creates resilience. Consistency is not about never falling off track. It is about getting back on track faster. You may lose focus, you may become tired, you may experience setbacks. That is part of being human. But your power is measured by how quickly you return to the actions that move you forward. Imagine what would happen if you stop relying on motivation completely. Imagine waking up and simply doing what you had already decided to do. No unnecessary debate. No endless excuses. No waiting for the perfect mood. You would begin to develop something far more powerful than temporary inspiration. You would develop trust in yourself. And self-trust changes everything. When you repeatedly do what you said you would do, your confidence grows, not because someone praised you, but because you have evidence. You know you can depend on yourself. You know that when you make a commitment, you are capable of honoring it. That confidence begins to influence every area of your life. The people who create extraordinary results are not always the most motivated people in the room. They are often the people who have learned how to act despite a lack of motivation. They understand that emotions are temporary, but their vision is bigger. They understand that comfort feels good for a moment, but discipline creates freedom that lasts much longer. So when motivation disappears, do not panic. Do not assume your dream is no longer important. Do not wait for the perfect feeling to return. Remember why you started. Reduce the task if necessary, and take the next small step. You do not need to conquer the entire mountain today. You only need to continue climbing. One day, you will realize that the greatest progress in your life did not happen on the days when everything was easy. It happened on the days when you were tired but continued. It happened when you were afraid but acted. It happened when you were discouraged but refused to surrender. Those moments built something inside you that motivation never could. Because motivation may get you moving, but consistency changes who you become. And when your daily actions are no longer controlled by how you feel, you become incredibly difficult to stop. You begin to understand that success is not about waiting for the perfect emotional moment. It is about creating a commitment so strong that even imperfect days cannot destroy your progress. Who are you becoming through the actions you repeat every day? That question is more powerful than asking what you want to achieve, because your goals may describe your destination, but your habits reveal your direction. Every day, you are casting votes for the person you will eventually become. Every choice is shaping your identity. Every repeated action is sending a message to your mind, this is who I am. Most people believe identity comes first. They say, when I become successful, I will become confident. When I become disciplined, I will start acting like a disciplined person. When I achieve my goal, I will finally believe in myself. But real transformation often works in the opposite direction. You begin by acting like the person you want to become, even before you feel like that person. You take the action first, and the identity begins to follow. If you want to become disciplined, you must start keeping small promises to yourself. If you want to become confident, you must repeatedly do things that challenge you. If you want to become knowledgeable, you must develop a habit of learning. If you want to become successful, you must begin practicing the behaviors that successful people consistently practice. You do not suddenly wake up one morning and discover that you become a completely different person. You build that person through repetition. Here's the hook. Every action you take is evidence. When you wake up early and do what you promised yourself, you create evidence that you are capable of discipline. And when you continue working, even when the task is difficult, you create evidence that you are resilient. When you choose learning instead of distraction, you create evidence that your future matters to you. One action may seem insignificant. This is why small habits are so powerful. You do not need to convince yourself with empty affirmations. You can create evidence through action. You can tell yourself, I am becoming disciplined, and then prove it by completing one task. You can say, I am becoming healthier, and then prove it by making one better choice. You can say, I am becoming successful, and then prove it by spending one focused hour working toward your goal. Your identity is not permanently fixed. You're not trapped by the person you've been in the past. Maybe you have been inconsistent. Maybe you have procrastinated. Maybe you've given up on yourself before. But your past behavior does not have to become your permanent identity. The moment you begin making different choices, you begin creating a different version of yourself. The problem is that many people keep repeating the same behaviors while expecting a new identity. They say they want to be confident, but they constantly avoid challenges. They want to be disciplined, but they continue negotiating with every responsibility. They want to be successful, but they spend their best hours on distractions. You cannot repeatedly act like the person you do not want to become and expect a completely different life. The good news is that you do not need to change everything at once. Start with one identity-based decision. Ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do right now? Then take that action. Ask, what would a confident person do in this situation? Then move toward the challenge. Ask, what would a future version of me thank me for doing today? Then do that one thing. Every time you make that choice, you strengthen the identity you are building. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You may still feel lazy while acting disciplined. You may still feel afraid while acting courageously. You may still feel uncertain while taking responsibility. But do not wait until you feel like the person you want to become. This is why small habits are so powerful. You do not need to convince yourself with empty affirmations. You can create evidence through action. You can tell yourself, I am becoming disciplined, and then prove it by completing one task. You can say, I am becoming healthier, and then prove it by making one better choice. You can say, I am becoming successful, and then prove it by spending one focused hour working toward your goal. Your identity is not permanently fixed. You're not trapped by the person you've been in the past. Maybe you have been inconsistent. Maybe you've procrastinated. Maybe you've given up on yourself before. But your past behavior does not have to become your permanent identity. The moment you begin making different choices, you begin creating a different version of yourself. The problem is that many people keep repeating the same behaviors while expecting a new identity. They say they want to be confident, but they constantly avoid challenges. They want to be disciplined, but they continue negotiating with every responsibility. They want to be successful, but they spend their best hours on distractions. You cannot repeatedly act like the person you do not want to become and expect a completely different life. The good news is that you do not need to change everything at once. Start with one identity-based decision. Ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do right now? Then take that action. Ask, what would a confident person do in this situation? Then move toward the challenge. Ask, what would a future version of me thank me for doing today? Then do that one thing. Every time you make that choice, you strengthen the identity you are building. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. You may still feel lazy while acting disciplined. You may still feel afraid while acting courageously. You may still feel uncertain while taking responsibility. But do not wait until you feel like the person you want to become. Begin behaving like that person, and eventually your feelings will begin to catch up with your actions. Think about a person who repeatedly says, I never finish anything. Every time they start something and quit, they strengthen that belief. But imagine that same person deciding to finish one small task every day. One completed task becomes evidence, then another, then another. Slowly, the story changes. They begin to say, I finish what I start. Not because they are pretending, but because their actions are proving it. This is how confidence is built. This is how discipline is built. This is how self-respect is built, not through one dramatic moment, but through thousands of small moments when you choose to become the person you claim you want to be. Your habits are shaping your identity even when you are not paying attention. The question is whether you are consciously choosing that identity or allowing your environment, your distractions, and your old patterns to choose it for you. Every day gives you another opportunity to vote for a better version of yourself. You may not be able to control every circumstance in your life, but you can control many of the actions you repeat, and those actions have power. A small decision repeated long enough can completely change the way you think, the way you behave, and the way you see yourself. The person you become is not created by what you say you want. It is created by what you repeatedly do. So choose your actions carefully. Every habit is shaping you. Every decision is teaching you. Every small improvement is building evidence that you are capable of becoming more. You are not waiting to become the person you want to be. You are becoming that person right now through the choices you make today. Make choices that your future self can be proud of. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Take the small actions that prove your potential, because eventually the habits you repeat will become the identity you live. What if your biggest problem is not that you lack goals, but that you lack a daily system capable of turning those goals into reality? Millions of people have goals. They want to lose weight, build wealth, start a business, become healthier, learn a skill, or create a better future. But wanting something is not the same as creating the structure that makes it inevitable. A goal can give you direction, but your daily system determines whether you actually move. This is where many people get trapped. They set a powerful goal, feel excited for a few days, and then return to the same routines that created their current situation. They want a different life, but they continue following the same daily system. They want better health, but their routine is built around poor choices. They want financial growth, but their system includes uncontrolled spending. They want success, but their daily schedule is dominated by distractions. The goal is not always the problem. The system is. Here is the hook. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You repeatedly return to the level of your systems. A goal may inspire you, but a system carries you when inspiration disappears. If your goal is to become fit, the system might be preparing your clothes the night before, exercising at a specific time, and making better food choices. If your goal is to become more knowledgeable, the system might be reading 10 pages every morning. If your goal is to build financial security, the system might involve tracking expenses, saving consistently, and learning valuable skills. The difference between a wish and a result is often the system behind it. A wish says, I want to become successful. A system asks, what will I do every day at 7 p.m. to move closer to that goal? A wish says, I want to write a book. A system says, I will write 1 page every morning. A wish says, I want to change my life. A system says, I will control the first hour of my day, complete my most important task, and improve 1 habit at a time. You must make success easier to repeat. Do not rely entirely on willpower. Willpower becomes weaker when you are tired, stressed, or surrounded by temptation. Instead, design your environment to support the person you want to become. If you want to read more, keep a book where you can easily see it. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes in advance. If you want to focus, remove unnecessary distractions before you begin. The more you reduce friction, the easier it becomes to take the right action. Your system should also be simple enough to survive difficult days. If your plan requires perfect conditions, you will eventually abandon it. Build routines that can adapt. On a strong day, you may work for 2 hours. On a difficult day, you may work for 20 minutes. The goal is to maintain the pattern. You're not trying to prove how much you can do in 1 day. You're building a structure that can continue for months and years. This is why small habits are so powerful. A goal might be to read 50 books in a year, but the system is reading 10 pages a day. A goal might be to become financially successful, but the system is saving and managing money consistently. The goal might be to become an expert, but the system is practicing every day. The goal shows you where you want to go. The system tells you what to do next. You must also measure what matters. What gets measured gets your attention. If you want to improve, track your actions. Did you exercise? Did you study? Did you complete your most important task? Did you avoid the habit that keeps holding you back? Measurement creates awareness, and awareness creates the opportunity to improve. Do not make your system complicated. You do not need a perfect planner, an expensive program, or an elaborate routine. You need clarity. Decide what matters most. Choose the smallest action that moves you forward. Attach it to a specific time or situation, then repeat it until it becomes natural. Your goal may be far away, but your next action is always close. You may not be able to build your dream life today, but you can complete today's work. You may not be able to become an expert immediately, but you can learn 1 new idea. You may not be able to transform your finances overnight, but you can make 1 smarter financial decision today. The people who achieve extraordinary results understand this principle. They do not depend on temporary excitement. They build routines that make progress unavoidable. They create systems that continue working even when their emotions change. They understand that the greatest advantage is not always talent. Sometimes it is simply having a structure that makes the right action easier to repeat. So stop asking only, what do I want? Start asking, what system would make that result more likely? Then build that system 1 small habit at a time, because your goals may define the destination, but your daily systems determine whether you ever arrive. What if perfection is the very thing keeping you from progressing? What if the standard you created to motivate yourself has quietly become the reason you keep delaying action? So many people are waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, the perfect level of confidence, or the perfect version of themselves before they begin. But here's the truth. Perfection is often just procrastination wearing a more attractive name. You tell yourself, I will start when I know more. I will begin when I have more time. I will take action when I feel confident. I will launch the project when everything is ready. But life rarely gives you perfect conditions. There will always be something missing. There will always be another problem to solve, another skill to learn, another reason to wait. If you keep waiting until everything is perfect, you may spend your entire life preparing to begin. Progress does not require perfection. It requires movement. You do not need to know every step before taking the first one. You do not need complete confidence before making a decision. You do not need to be the best before you begin practicing. The person who starts imperfectly has already created an advantage over the person who is still waiting. Here is the hook. A flawed action can teach you something that perfect planning never will. You can think about exercising, but your body changes when you actually train. You can study success, but your skills improve when you practice. You can plan a business, but you learn what customers truly want when you take your idea into the real world. Action gives you information, mistakes give you feedback, experience gives you wisdom. Many people are afraid of making mistakes because they believe mistakes prove they are not good enough. But mistakes do not define your potential. They reveal what needs to improve. Every error contains information. Every setback shows you something about your strategy. Every failed attempt can make your next attempt stronger if you are willing to learn instead of becoming emotionally trapped by the result. The problem is not failure. The problem is allowing failure to become your identity. You tried something and it did not work. That is information. You made a poor decision. Learn from it. You missed the day, return tomorrow. You made a mistake, correct it. You do not have to turn every setback into a personal judgment about your worth. Progress requires patience because meaningful change takes time. You may work hard for weeks and see very little visible improvement. You may study consistently and still feel like you know nothing. You may exercise and wonder why your body is not transformed yet. You may build something and hear no applause, but invisible progress is still progress. The foundation is developing before the results become obvious. Think about learning to walk. A child does not fall once and decide walking is not for me. The child falls, adjusts, and tries again. There is no shame in the process. But somewhere along the way, adults become afraid of looking inexperienced. They would rather remain stuck than be seen struggling. They would rather protect their image than develop their ability. You must be willing to be a beginner. You must be willing to look foolish while learning. You must be willing to produce something imperfect, receive criticism, make adjustments, and continue. The people who become excellent are not the people who never looked inexperienced. They are the people who are willing to remain inexperienced long enough to become skilled. The 1% mindset gives you permission to improve gradually. You do not need to be perfect today. You only need to be slightly better than yesterday. If you make one better decision, you are progressing. If you learn one lesson, you are progressing. If you take one step after a setback, you are progressing. Do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle. You may be looking at someone who has spent years developing skills and wondering why you are not at the same level, but you are seeing their results, not their repetitions. You are seeing the finished product, not the thousands of imperfect attempts that created it. Your responsibility is not to become perfect. Your responsibility is to keep improving. There will be days when you perform brilliantly and days when you barely move forward. Both are part of the journey. What matters is that you refuse to let one bad day convince you to abandon the entire mission. The most successful people are not necessarily those who make the fewest mistakes. They are often the people who learn the fastest, recover the quickest, and continue the longest. They understand that progress is not a straight line. It includes mistakes, delays, obstacles, and unexpected changes. But every challenge can become part of the training. So take the step before you feel completely ready. Begin with what you have. Improve as you go. Let your first attempt be imperfect. Let your first version be a beginning, not a final product. Because perfection demands that you wait until you are ready, while progress gives you permission to begin now. Every day, you have a choice. You can protect yourself from the discomfort of imperfection, or you can accept the discomfort of growth. You can remain exactly where you are, or you can take one small step forward. You can keep waiting for confidence, or you can build confidence through action. The life you want will not be created by perfect days. It will be created by imperfect people who continue moving forward. Keep learning, keep adjusting, keep showing up, because every imperfect step taken in the right direction is more valuable than a perfect plan that never becomes action. What if the life you are living 5 years from now is being decided by the choices you are making today? Not someday, not when you have more money, not when you feel more confident, not when circumstances become easier. Today, because the future does not suddenly appear in front of you. It is built quietly, decision by decision, habit by habit, and action by action. Most people think of the future as something distant. They imagine the person they want to become, the success they want to achieve, and the life they want to create as if those things belong to another version of themselves. They say one day I'll be disciplined. One day I will become successful. One day I will take care of my health. One day I will pursue my dream. But the future version of you is not created one day. In the future, that person is being created by what you choose to do right now. Here's the hook. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you're becoming. When you choose to study, instead of wasting an hour, you're voting for a more knowledgeable version of yourself. When you exercise, instead of giving into comfort, you are voting for a stronger version of yourself. When you save money, instead of spending impulsively, you are voting for a more financially secure future. When you choose discipline over distraction, you are voting for a life with more freedom. One decision may seem too small to matter, but the power of a decision is not always found in the moment you make it. Its power is found in what that decision creates next. One healthy choice can lead to another. One productive morning can create momentum for an entire day. One day of discipline can become a week can become a month can become a lifestyle, and a lifestyle can completely change your future. The same is true of negative choices. One excuse may seem harmless, one wasted evening may not appear important, one impulsive purchase may not destroy your finances, one skipped workout may not change your health. But repeated choices create patterns, and patterns eventually create results. Your future is being shaped by the choices you repeat, not by the intentions you occasionally have. This is why you must become more conscious of your daily decisions. Before you make a choice, ask yourself a powerful question. Will this move me closer to the person I want to become, or further away from that person? You do not need to ask this question about every tiny detail of your life, but when you are standing at a crossroads between comfort and growth, distraction and focus, fear and courage, that question can change everything. The difficult decision is often the valuable one. The decision to wake up when you want to sleep, the decision to continue when you want to quit, the decision to tell the truth when lying would be easier. The decision to learn when entertainment is more attractive, the decision to invest your time in something that may not reward you immediately. These decisions may not feel powerful in the moment, but they build character. Your future self is depending on the choices you make today. Imagine meeting yourself 1 year from now. What would that person want you to start doing? What would that person want you to stop doing? What decision would make your future life easier? What habit would create more opportunities? These questions force you to think beyond temporary comfort. The problem is that many people sacrifice their future for the present. They choose what feels good now and ignore what it will cost them later. But successful people learn to delay immediate pleasure for long-term freedom. They understand that discipline is not punishment. Discipline is a decision to value your future more than your temporary mood. You do not need to make every decision perfectly. You only need to become more intentional. If you make a poor choice, learn from it. If you lose focus, return. If you take the wrong path, adjust your direction. Your future is not destroyed by one mistake. It is shaped by what you consistently choose after the mistake. The most powerful thing about today is that it is always available to you. You may not be able to change yesterday. You cannot control every event tomorrow, but you can influence this moment. You can choose what you do next. You can take one action that your future self will appreciate. That action may be small. Make the call, read the page, complete the task, save the money, take the walk, apologize, begin the project, turn off the distraction. Keep the promise. The action may seem insignificant, but you never know which small decision will become the turning point in your life. A better future is not built by hoping that life will change. It is built by becoming the kind of person who makes better choices consistently. Every morning gives you another opportunity to make a different decision. Every challenge gives you a chance to strengthen your character. Every difficult moment gives you an opportunity to choose the person you want to become. So do not underestimate today. This day may look ordinary, but ordinary days are where extraordinary lives are created. Your future is being built in the moments when nobody is watching, when there's no applause, and when the choice seems too small to matter. The life you want is not created by one giant decision. It is created by thousands of small decisions made over time. Choose wisely, choose deliberately, choose the action that moves you forward. Because every choice you make today is shaping the person you will meet tomorrow. You do not need to change your entire life today. You only need to change what you do today. Then tomorrow, do it again. Because success is not reserved for the most talented person, the luckiest person, or the person who starts with the most advantages. Success belongs to the person who continues to improve, continues to learn, continues to act and continues to show up. 1% today, 1% tomorrow, 1% after that. Keep going, keep building, keep becoming, because the small habits you repeat today are creating the extraordinary life you will live. Tomorrow, your future is not created by one giant leap. It is created by the next small step. Take it now.